Shalom, back at you again with a short video. Promise you it's going to be a short one. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video, You Have to Tell the Whole Story. And you understand what I mean? This is a video that just came up a couple of hours ago. This is African Diaspora News Channel with Phil, what's his name? Phil something. Phil Scott. And he's had Bishop Nathaniel on his origin story, the creation of IUIC, and Kyrie Irving. So I'm listening. He's telling when he met this guy named Black, and he was part of the Nation of Islam for a while. Then he was part of some Black Kemetic stuff. He mentioned Black. He mentioned this other guy, and I'm waiting for him to say. Well, he says he came across certain scriptures about the Lord being Black and the prophets being Black and Israelites being Black, and then jump forward from the early 90s, 90, because he mentioned not the year 90, to, he's a jump forward to 2003. I started the IUIC. There was 3 of us that came down, and 2 of us that got built back up. And I was kind of hoping or waiting for him to mention, One West, which we are all known as One Westers. This was a term that's from Vocab Malone. He calls us One Westers, GMS, former One Westers, IUIC, former One Westers, ISUPK, former One Westers. He mentions absolutely nothing about One West. He mentions nothing about the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge. He mentions nothing about Mosh the 7. He mentions nothing about the 3. He mentions nothing about who taught him. The way he brings this out is, it's a shame, man. Hey, the movie Apocalypto. All y'all saw the movie Apocalypto. Remember when they sacrificed those guys and they cutting their hearts out? And the one guy, the big guy, the big Galate looking guy, he was saying in that language, and the translation was shame. He kept saying shame, shame, shame. Well, I'm saying shame, shame, shame. All this knowledge that you teach to people, and people that follow the IUIC, the leadership, mainly Bishop Nathaniel, they're amazed at this great knowledge that he has. They don't realize, they think that the Lord just came to him and gave him all this knowledge. No. He learned this knowledge from? He learned it from me. And I'm not trying to take no credit, but he learned it from me, but I learned it from my elders over me. He also came up under them too, but he was part of my camp, during the week when we had classes or whatever, but mainly on Saturday before we went out and speak, there was like 50, 51 of us, 52 of us that was in the camp. So we had the room next door to the main school. You got the main school, and then we had rented another room right across the hall. And I used to kind of commandeer that, and I had all the brothers sit down there and we would have the class. We'd go through the breakdowns of scriptures. He also went to classes too. I mean, when he first came in, he went to the different classes. But then, he wound up being part of my camp. And he was one of the troublemakers, by the way. He was one of the troublemakers that used to give me a hard time, along with other niggas that are no longer, in Israel. They just out in the world. They're just wandering souls, like it says in the book of Jude. They're wandering souls waiting for a missile to hit them. That's a title for you, Apostle Aram Lob. These guys are wandering souls waiting for a missile to eat them, or these are wandering souls waiting to eat a missile, because that's what they're doing. The ones of you, I'll get back into the story, the ones of you that came into this thing and you fell out for whatever reason. You didn't like the teacher the way he looked at you, or he looked at your woman the wrong way, but you shouldn't have brought your woman around in the first goddamn place. But for whatever reason, you are no longer teaching Israel. Now, if you left, you got the knowledge because you're supposed to still teach, right? So these, there was a handful of guys that bucked up against what I did, and they eventually bucked up against the leadership over me, and for whatever reason they fell out, right? He was a troublemaker. I mean, after a couple of years, he no longer was a troublemaker because even though we were cool, he kind of came up on a level, and he was also known as a scriptural man. A scripture man is a guy he's always into the scriptures, and he'll bring out, like, if you forget a scripture, you go to him. What's that scripture where? And he'll bring it out. Well, he was considered a scripture man. Okay, you got some guys that are not really that deep in the scriptures, and you got others that are really into the scriptures, and he was one of them. And he does know scriptures, but like I said, I was waiting for him to mention at least, Machar Arian Yaikwab, or One West, One West 125th Street, or the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge in Harlem, off of 125th Street, off of Fifth Avenue. I just knew he was going to say something about that. I just knew he was going to mention something about Abba. He went from this guy named Black, conscious community, Islam, or whatever. He's from the night from, and then he woke up to the fact that all these characters in the Bible, and he mentioned Jeremiah 14:2, Song of Solomon 1:5. He mentioned those basic scriptures that deal with color, off the top of his head. He didn't read any of them, but I just knew he was going to mention, High Priest Ariah, or One West, or I came up with the leader of GMS. I mean, he didn't even have to mention my name, but God damn it, at least mention Machar Ariah and Yaikwab, or at least the 7. You just went from 1990, you jumped to 2003. Now I don't got to listen to the rest of this video. Y'all can watch it and do what you want, but going to the guy in Apocalypto, shame, shame, shame. That's what I'm going to title this video. Let me just say this before I close. When we got on YouTube, the fact that King Machar, High Priest Ariah, High Priest Yaikwab, and then some of the 7, is because we presented them to you, not any other Israelite group. Sakari didn't do that because Sakari didn't know them. He didn't know them. I'm pretty sure Sakari would have mentioned, hey, the head of Sakari, he did a video, and you can find it on his page, where he said what the video that made me come into the truth. And the thumbnail is me, and I believe Apostle Gabar, and maybe some other, I think Tazadakbar or whatever. But I'm in the picture, but I never got a chance to see the video. So I'm pretty sure if you see me in the thumbnail, he's going to mention me, because he did come through GMS. And then through things happening, he got his own thing. But he's out there. He's out there. He got the men that gathered under, that were part of his gathering, and they're out there teaching. They're out there teaching. They go into the scriptures. I can't say, nah, they ain't gonna make it. Who am I? I'm not the Most High. If they're truly men of the Most High and of the elect, they're going to be delivered. I can't point to a guy and say you ain't gonna make. But if a guy is straight up wicked, then I can say I don't think you going. I can say that. But if you're doing the work, I got to consider that you may make it, that I may be wrong about this guy. You see? Okay, so let me do this. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.